his approach to the job and his industry meant quite a lot. Presently the older man glanced at the clock, which showed 10 minutes past noon, and steered the conversation to a close. "I guess we'll go and get some lunch," he said. "Which hotel are you staying at?" "I checked my bags," the young man said. "I've got a friend has an apartment in Peter Cooper Village. I'll call him later on, see if he's got a bed." "Didn't you get in yesterday?" Stanton shook his head. "We got a 20 hours delay at Lisbon. They had to change a motor on the plane." Mr. Johnson glanced again at his technician. He had always been a pale young man, with very short mousy hair and little colour in his face. 3 years in Arabia had bronzed him to a deep yellow rather than a brown. He seemed more adult and self-reliant than when he had last sat in that office, but he didn't look very well. Perhaps that was fatigue. "What time did you get in?" "I'd say we landed around 8 o'clock, the young man replied. "I took a shower at the airport and came on into town." "Get any sleep on the way over?" "Not very much." Mr. Johnson pressed a bell on the side of his desk, and when the girl came in, sleek and young and well-groomed, he said, "Sharon, call the club and tell them I'll be bringing a guest in for lunch. Table for 2. I'll be right over." The young man's eyes flickered quickly over the stenographer, a motion which didn't escape the notice of his boss. 3 years in Arabia was tough on a young man. When the girl had gone out, Mr. Johnson said, "Have any trouble with your health?" "Not a thing. You don't have to if you stick by the rules. I'm glad to be out of it before the real hot weather, though." His boss nodded. 3 summers is enough in Arabia out in the field." The sun of mid-July streamed in through the slats of the Venetian blind. "I suppose you wouldn't call this a hot day?" The young man smiled. "Kind of humid after the dry heat. I wouldn't want to work here through the summer." "We all come to it as we get on in life," said Mr. Johnson. "That's unless we fail to make it and go run a gas station. There's worse things to do than that, though, too. That's what I think sometimes, commuting from Norwalk through August with the temperature way up in the 90s. He heaved his massive body up from the desk. "Let's go and get some lunch. How much leave have you got coming? 10 weeks? 9, said Stanton. "I took a week in Cairo last year." "That time you flew up to meet PK about the core analysis?" "That's right." "Oh, maybe we'll give you that. Where are you going for it? Out west?" Stanton nodded. "I'll go home and stay with my folks for a while anyway. I guess I'll be around there most of the time." They left the office and walked to the elevator. "Oregon, isn't it?" said the older man. "Way in from Portland somewhere?" "That's right," said the geologist. "Place called Hazel in the back of the state. That's where I come from." As they descended in the elevator, the older man said vaguely, "I knew a man one time went fishing in the Hazel River, runs into the Snake. Would that be the same?" "That's right," said Stanton. "Hazel's on the Hazel River in the northeast corner of the state. There's good fishing in the river. Trout." "Is Hazel a big place?" The young man shook his head. "About 10,000 at the last count, I think." At the entrance to the Topeka building and in the street, the crowds thronged around them, making conversation impossible. They walked in silence for a couple of blocks and went into another building and up in another elevator. They walked out into the air-conditioned coolness of the club and checked their hats. They went to the washroom, and then Mr. Johnson led his guest into the bar. "What's it to be?" "Orange juice," said the young man. Mr. Johnson ordered it with rye on the rocks for himself. "Still sticking to your principles?" "I guess so," said the geologist. "It's mighty easy to stick to some principles." He laughed. "I just don't like it." In fact, he had an aversion to alcoholic beverages that was almost pathological. He felt about alcohol as other people might feel about cocaine, that it was most dangerous stuff to take even in the smallest quantities. It was habit-forming. If you took one drink, you would want another, and another, and another. With each essay, the craving would increase till it became overpowering. The end, inevitably, was that you would become an alcoholic, unable to hold down a job, unable to walk down the street without falling flat on your face, fit only for skid row.